Hello, my name is Konrad. This is my presentation that is looking back at the work made during the year.
Looking back, one underlying theme that sticks out is the use of grid and grids, once explicitly pointed to via use of pigments and pastels and colors and sculptures, and once invisible or only alluded to via use of public space. The initial interest to use the grid in my works stemmed from attraction to some of the modernist artworks and artists, aesthetically as well as theoretically, understanding them as an emblem of modernism, according to Margarita Tustin. Some of the work also being influenced by the essay Grid by Roslina Kraus, talking about Mondrian Malevich, who, according to her, landed in a place that was out of reach of everything that went before, which is to say, they landed in the present and everything else was declared to be the past.
Furthermore, the work being understood to be non-objective and in some ways providing a safe space away from difficulties, I quickly became disillusioned under the conditions of COVID-19, having to work in a space that functions as a domestic space as well as studio and an exhibition space, taking more and more cues from music and literature than theory, and coming to realize that the object of even work that would most likely be qualified as non-objective is in fact objective, that it talks about me and it reflects on the conditions regardless of viewer's understanding of it.
For instance, deconstructing an IKEA desk in order to draw on the back of it and then leaving it completely unfinished, having only a photograph now to remind me of it, or putting the legs of the desk on top of each other in order to stack them in an unusual and completely dysfunctional way, which nonetheless functions in that appears aesthetically to recall some type of science fiction structure or impossible object. In line with this work, I decided to work with an object more personal in order to explore its sculptural and painterly qualities, as well as its conceptual understanding. The object is a bed, and its understanding, I thought, was that of privacy, security and comfort and rest, which took completely new qualities when unmade and taken apart, and also rolled in a spiral and tied with twine.
This work also taking inspiration from artists like Tracy Emin's bed and the work, as well as Van Gogh's painting of the bedroom. However, in my work, taking a slightly different understanding of the present condition and reflecting on the ruthlessness of COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on angst creating devices where there's very little to do with colorful patterns and even solitary exile in depression pills or other.
Further developments taking inspiration also from the Dadaist movement and Cabaret Voltaire and the faculty of absurdity and humor in art, and what those actions can mean in presence of pandemic and disparity and inequality.
Further on, taking inspiration from Roman Fenchak's work Flight and the idea of turning something inside out in order to expose it and or explore further its wider socio-economic implications, I decided to take the bed, deconstruct its sculpture outside and explore its performative elements and different placements located on the street and outside. Further on, I also decided to explore the works in the settings of slightly more public but indoors, taking the pink sheets and displaying them right against the window, so exposing a grid.
Widening the gap, especially with the pink sheets work, to ambiguity and uncertainty for a passerby, that having to see it and not really being aware of what it means unless being told or reading up on it. Then creating an exhibition in the university's building's basement for only one viewer, so outside of myself, and adding a new element and component of the work, that being an inflatable bed, and the act of inflating it also being a performative action, exploring here the qualities of mobility and nomad life, Continuing to think about the grid now in a group setting, thinking of the grid as a network between different characters, traits and identity types, and trying to imagine what if I was to be a slightly different person, and trying to make interpretations of what my work would look like then.
Some sense, feeling like becoming myself the work is quite strange. For instance, being a cartoon animated character, living on screen and interacting with people far away from me, and talking about how can we connect through this distance in the screen, and coming up with an idea of measurement and scale and how it is obscured through the screen, and then making a sort of illustration in a happy tone, thinking of it as a very positive aspect of life right now, being able to talk and connect through a screen and making an animation of it. In similar vein, thinking of the outsiders and trying to appreciate the qualities of nature and taking something as collective weight of scale to a tree to make a sort of memorabilia of an event that was exploring here the qualities of snow and temporality. Also thinking about the grid as an invisible source of connection between the human and the animal and the nature, making a circle around 3 trees and the triangles inside it and the sphere around it, looking at the trademarks and how it looks when observed through a window and superimposed and turned upside down and next to each other in black void.
Thinking of space orientated not by truth but by possibility of individual reading and reinterpretation as a way of healing, especially looking at the tradition of shamanism and what it means today, and why is it important that perhaps the use of sound and repetition can help to make an individual feel more connected.
Taking loads of inspiration here from grime artists like Skepta and Slowthai, who via the use of radical lyricism and repetition strive to create a space for rising above economic and social inequalities.
Also, in the meantime, thinking of alternative possibilities of utopian sphere where language could be replaced by colour and composition and movement, and what would that look like, and what colours would it have, and what other possibilities.
Taking loads of inspiration from Takashi Murakami flower painting mosaics, the possibility of being in an endless state of colorful ecstasy, possible through attainment of accumulation of capital and wealth, and conversely an immense amount of melancholy and
Thinking about the future and about what type of message and record of this activity is going to be, and in some ways thinking how incomplete it will be. In a way, trying to reflect this through 3D scanning of domestic space and sculpture and Christmas tree, thinking of ritual and what type of interpretation is possible of taken from such limited qualities of the work made right now and the information generated.
Finally, looking back at Instagram as being a very recurring platform of sharing and generating of information between friends and family, and thinking of it actually as a totally public space, corporately owned and yet apparently democratic, what it means to be in an endless or seemingly endless grid, vertical orientated endless scroll that reluctantly segregated in a grid.
Thinking of the number 264, decided to make 264 numerical paintings and slash drawings, as well as 264 home paintings, some of them in multilingual and some of them in English, and 264 abstract photographs taken in the flat that I live in. Finally deciding to upload these in 3 separate sections onto Instagram, taking a form of event and public exhibition.